Oh, I'm reading a message right here about how I'm not approved to go live on LinkedIn. Here, I'll read it to you. You can see what I see or hear what I hear. LinkedIn says you're not approved for LinkedIn Live. It's only available for a limited group of members and organizations. Okay, I'm just not in the N club yet. But hey, if you just tuned in, you can probably see some different things like right there, right? And then right there. Wait, there. So I'm trying to up my StreamYard game by adding some new things, right? Different flavors. So anyway, the big news is visual training for tennis. The paperback is out. It's ready to go. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about it. But one thing that is in there is we're going to be talking about nutrition. So you've probably heard me talk about nutrition in recent videos, but another thing that we do in the book is we talk about the system of vision, and the way I break it down for people who are brand new on the court with me. It's a little bit of an adaptation from what you might have heard from Oscar Wagner. So Oscar says, find, feel, and finish. And, I think that it's a good starting framework from that. So, but I break it down a little bit further. And so there's a pairing of a couple of different things. So there's this system of seeing the ball. So the system begins when the ball comes out of the opponent's racket. And then something happens by now. And then the ball continues to fly and it bounces, and then you hit it, and then it flies away from you, it bounces, and they hit it. That's the whole system. And there are different visual objectives during that time. So very quickly, I'm just going to break down a couple of different objectives that happen. Then if you want this as a PDF, send me an email and I'll send you a PDF, and you can show that. You can share that with your people, print it out, share it out. And then once you get in my email list, then you're going to get some offers for the course as it currently exists. So the first thing that happens is the ball comes out of the racket. And if you're paying full attention to that, then your brain collects a lot more information than if you're not paying full attention to that. And my experience is that the people who come on my court, approximately 100% of them are not paying attention to the ball coming out of the court, out of the racket, as well as they should be, okay, or as well as they can be. And a lot of times the breakdowns that happen occur because their attention wasn't fully on that moment. And then what happens is, by the time, very passively though, by the time the ball's out of the racket by 2 feet, your brain with 95% accuracy knows where the ball's going. So by now you can start moving. You can take your first step. You can do your racket preparation and start moving. So unit, turn, and go. And there should be some flow to that. I mean, you want that to flow together. I very much opposed to compartmentalized step-by-step stuff. So the turning and moving happens one into the other. And then the ball becomes this blur, and your brain is expert at reconciling the blur. So you have to trust your brain, and you have to go and move. And then remember, it's 95% accuracy, because there's some factors that can make a little bit of unpredictability, like a little bit of wind, a weird spot on the court, which gives you a bad bounce. It could be a ball that wasn't made perfectly round. Lots of different things can, it's the temperature on the day, how, colder temperatures mean balls don't travel as far as fast. Hotter temperatures, the balls get really lively, bounce higher and farther and faster. Drier temperatures, drier air, the ball can waffle a little bit. Heavier air, the ball, can, starts to feel a lot heavier and all of that. So anyway, so you reconcile the blur. And then what happens is you make contact, right? And at that moment, you want to be relatively still. I don't say keep your head still. And the reason I don't say that is because it's like this tense thing. You don't need to tense up when you do that. So just allow your head to be relatively still. There can be a little bit of movement of your head, but less is better. But if you're making yourself rigid to do it, then that's also a bad idea. You took it too far. And then you complete your shot. So actually there's a moment where you're not following the ball because you want to complete your shot. It's going away from you. You're not looking at it. You're finishing, and then you're recovering on balance. And then in the next little microsecond after that, then your attention goes to the ball perhaps bouncing on the other side of the court, right? And then preparing for the next shot. So, one thing I like to do is tell people that right around the time the ball's bouncing on the other side, then you need to be pretty close to where your full recovery is. Because the better you recover, then the more on balance that you're going to be and more still that you will be to be able to see the ball cleanly coming off the opponent's racket. That might even be more important than having an idealized position on the court. So that's the whole system. Now, the way I like to say it is instead of find, feel, and finish, I like to say find, footwork, feel, follow through, finish. So you can look for a breakdown anywhere along the line. And instead of doing a thing where, I take it necessarily sequentially, what I do is I look for problems along the way. Is the player finding the ball coming out of the strings? If they're not, we have to start there. Are they reacting quickly enough? And yesterday, I was telling people that they were a little too slow in getting going. And there's no early. You can't leave early. You can leave on time and you can leave late. And so you want to leave on time. You want to be able to make that first reaction. So initiate footwork. But then, with footwork, I tell them, look, your unit turn is part of your footwork. It has an effect on your feet. So I lump those together because I don't want people to separate them. And then feel, right? So the feel that you have on the ball, it will give you the feedback that you need about whether you used accurate footwork or not. So if your footwork wasn't accurate, then you're going to, recoil because you got too close. You're going to be stretched out, or you're not going to be, getting the ball in an idealized place in your racket, which isn't always exactly in the middle, right? Serves are better up in the tip, right? Top spin ground strokes are sometimes better in the lower third upper part of the racket. I don't want to dig too deeply into that right now. So your feeling of the ball, very important. And then comes your follow through. And this is where during your follow through, you might not be looking at the ball. You're probably not looking at the ball. Maybe you shouldn't be looking at the ball because you want to make sure that you complete your stroke. People compromise their stroke in order to see the ball, and then they don't hit as good of a shot. And then the chances that it's coming back and maybe coming back better are greater. And then what do you gain from that? So follow through, right? And then the finish is that relaxation phase, which that's an important thing to do. Because I don't know if you know anybody who just feels like they have to prevent their racket or their arm from flying off, but that creates a lot of tension. So you want to be able to have a good flowing follow, finish. But When you're in the finishing stage, somewhere, and there's no finite answer to this, but somewhere between follow through and finish, then you can start to sight the ball over there. You don't want to wait too long. You don't want to make sure that you've got a complete follow through before you start looking. You're not going to give yourself enough time. So there's the visual system of sequentially what to check. And in the introduction to the book, I talk about how a mechanic, if a car is not starting, is first going to start with the battery. If it doesn't turn over and you have a dead battery, you don't really check anything else. So that's the paying attention to the thing coming out, right? And then you check to see, is there gas in the car, right? If it's turning over, it could be the starter, it could be the alternator. You go through these different steps to check one thing at a time in order. So anyway, the book is out in print. I'm gonna put a link in there, and now I am off to go teach tennis. So have a great day. And I couldn't find my light, so apologies for the shadows, but next time I'll have my light ready to go.